Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Dirty Mike. You guys might know me from my other podcast, Totally Plausible Conspiracy Theory, or from Twitch, where you can find me at twitch.tv/dirtymike_TV. But I also go by PJ, which is going to be important because I'm going to be bringing a guest on every week for this podcast to talk about movies that we loved and the video games based on them, and if these video games are true to the movies, and if we like them or love them as much as the movies they're based on. So we're going to be talking about that. This first week, we're going to be talking about a movie called Constantine, which is a personal favorite of mine. And I found another friend of mine, a Twitch streamer, who also loves this movie. And we recently played the game together. We streamed it on Twitch. So one of the fun things about this podcast is going to be, if you want to see the games that we're going to be talking about, I'm going to be streaming them on my Twitch channel as much as I can. But let me introduce my guest. My guest is Bianca, also known on Twitch as Tentacle Princess. How's it going, Bianca?
It's going pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to start this podcast. This wasn't originally going to be the first episode. I don't know how we're going to release them. We're recording a bunch of them this July and August to release this fall. And we were going to start with Jaws, but I'm actually really excited to talk about Constantine. Like I said, it's one of my favorite movies. So why don't we just get into it a little bit? I'll talk about the movie for anybody who's not familiar with it. And then I'm going to ask you some questions about it.
Sounds fine.
All right. So Constantine, for anybody who's not familiar, is a 2005 American occult detective film directed by Francis Lawrence. So Constantine was originally a comic book, actually. I don't think it was called Hellblazer, though. John Constantine was introduced in the comic book, written and directed by Alan Moore, who was the writer of The Swamp Thing. He first appeared there in June of 1985, and by 1988, the character John Constantine was given his own book titled Hellblazer, published by DC Comics. Were you I don't know about for me, like I remember watching this movie back in 2005, not knowing anything about it other than that the trailers looked good.
Yeah, I had no idea about the comics.
I did not know it was a comic. I know it's become more popular as a DC character nowadays, I think because of, I don't know what show. Constantine has his own show, right?
It does have its own show. I haven't watched anything about the show, but I think I really need to watch it now.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard it's really good. I've never been a big DC fan myself, especially not the WB renditions of the movie or the shows. I don't know if that's a WB one. I've heard a lot of good stuff about like Green Arrow and what's the other ones, like Doom Patrol and stuff like that.
I heard a lot of stuff about The Flash.
Yeah, The Flash is one that gets brought up a lot. Constantine was one that I only was familiar with because, or familiar that there was a show because I started seeing all these petitions to bring it back. I guess it kind of had a cult following, which is interesting because the movie kind of has a cult following. Yeah. It didn't seem to do super well. Let's see. It was released in February 8th, 2005. The film grossed $230 million worldwide with a $100 million budget. So it didn't do terrible. But it seems to be that the reception of this movie wasn't super great, which we can get into. I think Roger Ebert put it on his top 50 worst movies list.
That's so messed up because it's such a good movie.
I personally do love this movie. So let me ask you, what is your experience with this film? When did you first see this film?
2005 is when it came out. So I watched it relatively young. I don't remember watching it when it first came out, but I don't know. It was really,
like something that you saw like on HBO at some point, or
no? I think my parents had the movie. They either rented it or they owned it. I don't remember, but I know, like, coming from a heavily Catholic background at the time, it was. My family just kind of talked about that stuff all the time. So anything that was religious was very involved in our household, even like The Exorcist itself. Like, my family really enjoyed watching that stuff. And I don't know, like watching Constantine's battle with his own religion and everything, it kind of reached home. Like, it followed me through the years since I went from being a devout Catholic to being someone who had like an agnostic feeling because I went through my own religious battles. And then now, where I am at now, trying to, continue to find my faith again and whatnot. So it means a lot to me personally.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I saw this movie in theaters. I went with my one of my friends. I was going to say a stepbrother. He was never like a stepbrother. Shout out to Jeremy, by the way, if you're listening. We were never actually like related, but I just looked at him as like a brother. We went out to see this the week it came out, and I loved it. I feel like what we had talked about off air before is I feel like people who have some type of religious background or religious faith yearnings, something like that, really connect with this movie a lot more. I know I personally connected with this movie pretty strongly. It's been one that's always stuck with me. We can get into the plot and stuff like that. And obviously, we're going to be talking eventually about the 2005 video game adaptation, which was out for PC, PlayStation 2, and Xbox, and talking about that. But the movie itself really resonated with me in a big way. And it's one that I've come back to a lot of times. And we watched it again in preparation for this podcast. And I still love this movie.
It's so good. There's so much symbolism, and like honestly, the cinematography is beautiful.
Yeah. So what? Let's talk about that. What was some of your favorite shots in this movie?
Two of my favorite shots. The ending scene where Constantine is sacrificing himself to save Angela and her sister Soul. I think that was a really like all of that was very beautiful. That whole scene was done beautifully. I actually found out that the director was hanging from a harness above to get some of those shots.
Oh, wow.
The scene where she is, it's kind of like looks like a confessional where she's talking about how she also had some visions that she lied about that she shared with her sister, and
yeah,
that's so beautiful.
Let's go through a little bit of the movie because I want to bring up those scenes. Those are some really good scenes. So for anybody who's not familiar, there's going to be a lot of spoilers in this podcast. Obviously, I shouldn't even have to say that, but we're going to be talking about all the plot points of the movie and some of the more interesting things. So this movie basically, you want to just kind of go through the plot of the movie a little bit and then talk about our favorite parts?
Yeah.
Because I feel like giving it some context, if you guys haven't watched this movie, by the way, both of us highly recommend it. It's totally worth watching. If you want to watch it and come back and listen to the podcast, that might be pretty good. So the movie basically starts off in the Mexican countryside, which I found interesting about the movie taking place in Mexico and LA. I guess originally this was supposed to take place in England. I guess that Constantine was a British character.
Oh,
and it wasn't until they attached Keanu Reeves to the film that they decided to do this in LA to make it a little bit more natural. Did you know that originally Nicolas Cage was supposed to play Constantine?
I remember. It's not that it would have been a bad movie. I just think that Keanu Reeves does it more justice.
Keanu Reeves does great. I've been a big Keanu Reeves fan for a long time.
He's great.
I know it's popular now, like with the whole meme, like, no, you're beautiful. And with Cyberpunk 2077 coming out, people are all of a sudden, or I guess maybe it started with John Wick. People are all of a sudden Keanu Reeves fans. And I remember having this argument with people like, no, Keanu Reeves is a good actor.
Yeah, no, he's great.
Everybody thinks just, Bill and Ted, or they used to just think like Bill and Ted. And I'm like, if you watch Point Break, like he does his kind of surfer dude Bill and Ted thing, but then he also does like a really serious good cop. Point Break's one of the best movies ever made. My point is Constantine is a great actor. Nicolas Cage is he's something.
That would have been weird.
He's not terrible in everything. He's definitely someone who's innovative and is always trying to do something. But I could not imagine this movie.
No, I couldn't. No.
He was originally supposed to play Superman too. I've not watched the documentary yet they made. You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that. That would have been
They
weird.
actually started filming. I want to say it was why can't I think of his name that directed Beetlejuice?
Oh, Tim Burton.
Yes, it was Tim Burton and Nicolas Cage making a Superman film.
No.
There's a documentary, I think it's on Hulu, and I really want to watch it. It looks, he's got like long black hair down to his shoulders, and he's got like the Superman suit on with all like the fake stuffed muscles. And it literally looks like that costume you would buy for your kid that's got all like the padded stuffed muscles in it,
Yeah.
That's what Nicolas Cage looks like as Superman. I couldn't imagine him as Constantine. I don't think I would like this movie as much.
I don't think so either.
Definitely not. Not that Nicolas Cage is terrible in everything. I like Face Off, but he's over the top.
I don't think he would have prepared for the role like Keanu did.
Yeah, because Keanu, he went to like an exorcist and did a lot of preparation.
He put in the work, and I don't know. It was really good.
See, that's what I love about Keanu Reeves, though, is when he prepares for a role, he really gets into it. Like, you saw John Wick, right? You're a fan of John Wick?
I actually have never
You've never seen John Wick? What? All right, so in John Wick, he went to Tactical Ranch. I think it's in California. And you can watch the videos of him doing like 3-gun competition shooting. And he is so good at it. It's crazy how good he is. How good he got at that stuff for John Wick. So it's not like in a lot of movies where you're like, oh my gosh, Like if you're a gun guy like me, like I love shooting and shooting sports. I like watching 3-gun competitions because I'm just a nerd like that. I hate watching movies where you're like, that is so wrong. Like how you're holding the gun, how you're shooting, it's all awful. And they try to like edit in a way, but like in John Wick, you can tell he really knows what he's doing. And the same in The Matrix, you could tell he really learned like Kung Fu and stuff like, I know Kung Fu.
You know what's funny is that like he just got done filming The Matrix right when he was hired on to do this movie.
Yeah.
Like immediately after.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of especially of the original Matrix. I think he was good in that. But anyway, I just thought I had to defend Keanu a little bit. I've always thought he was a pretty good actor, and I like him a lot in this role. I feel like this movie wouldn't be the same. I saw other names thrown in, like they talk about having Mel Gibson, which I feel like Mel Gibson could do this type of role, but I feel like it really is a good role for Keanu. I remember being very upset when they didn't cast Keanu Reeves as Doctor Strange, because I remember thinking he was so good in Constantine.
Oh, yeah, that would have been great.
He would have been a great Doctor Strange. I still feel like he would have been, and that's not me trying to rip on
Benedict
Cumberbatch. Am I saying that right?
I can't say his last name.
I'm not saying
terrible.
he doesn't make a good Doctor Strange. I just feel like it would have been really cool to see a Keanu Reeves Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this movie starts off in the Mexican countryside. With this guy finding a spear wrapped in a Nazi flag, and it kind of possesses him, and then he moves towards L.A., and that's kind of where this starts off. And then it cuts to Constantine being called in to do this exorcism on like a 14-year-old Filipino girl. I love that scene, by the way.
You know, the exorcist taught him how to hold a person who was possessed. And
that was part of like
that was part of his thing. So that's like he did really good. Like he was super organic with. I know the director said that they didn't really have to give him a lot of, direction because
he's
just
a guy
did
who
it.
does his homework.
Yeah,
I appreciate that about him. I like that scene. I love the whole him putting the cigarette down on the end of the coffee table. It kind of sets up this whole idea of him eventually, the battle with cancer and just his like, it's almost like the cigarette on the edge of the counter represents like how much he just doesn't care. It's like this whole nihilistic thing. Like, okay, well, let's just see if I can do this before my cigarette goes out, because that's all I care about anymore.
Right.
And I also feel like that scene has a lot of yellow. And I don't know if I was the only one that noticed this, but I feel like the movie's got a really gritty kind of yellowish tone to it. It's kind of a neo-noir film in a lot of ways, but instead of black and white, it's more of like a grungy yellowish look in a lot of ways. A lot of like neon lights, but in a really dark kind of I don't know, like it almost like represents like nihilism in a lot of ways. Like his whole attitude,
it's like sick. Like his whole attitude is just
yellow kind of represents sickness too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah.
No, I like that. I like the color, the use of colors in this film. I feel like they're not like in a lot of films where they like really, really push like red is like really, really a lot in one scene and stuff like that. But it's just like the undertones. It's not like jumping out at you, but it's definitely in the back of your mind, giving you an impression of what to feel from this film. I'm also a big fan of noir films. I read this article recently about this film kind of being like a modern day neo-noir, except that it doesn't have a femme fatale, really. Yeah. Like it's got Angela, but she's not really like a classic femme fatale. And then the other thing is they never kiss.
They kind of build a little bit. They build the tension.
No, they definitely do. Like she kind of.
It's not the focal point.
She makes herself available at times. Like
she's ready.
Totally kiss me, dude. Yeah. And he's like, nah, I got this Nicorette gum. I'm good.
I'm good.
I don't know. I like that. I guess this movie. Originally, they were talking about making a sequel for it, and it just never happened. Maybe they would have explored more of that in the sequel, but I like the noir thing. I feel like it's a noir that's doesn't focus on the romance angle as much as a lot of earlier ones. Yeah, which I kind of like.
I like not everything has to have romance in it, like.
Yeah, like there's definitely feelings between the two characters, and their chemistry I thought was good. I like Rachel Weisz in this film a lot,
God,
too.
I love her in general.
She's so good in The Mummy, and she's so good in this. I don't know. I like her a lot in this film. Okay, so another character that's introduced early on in the movie that I actually really like, I also feel like I defend sometimes a little bit. I thought Shia LaBeouf was good in this movie.
I'm not the biggest fan of Shia LaBeouf, but I do like some of his movies.
I feel like the one thing that I always talk to people about when I talk about my favorite movies or actors I think do good and stuff is they're like, oh yeah, they're such a terrible person or they're this or that in real life. And it's like, I just don't care.
Matter.
Like I don't really like most people in Hollywood or most famous people in real life, and I could care less. I think Shia LaBeouf is pretty good in a lot of things. He's not like the best. I feel like he does good in this. I liked him in this role. This was earlier on in his career, I think. Like,
yeah, he was still really young. I don't even think he did Holes.
He was not that far outside of Even Stevens at this point.
Yeah.
Holes, I don't remember. He might have done Holes by now. He had to have, right?
Maybe. I feel like he was really young in Holes, but it's fine.
Yeah, he was young in this too. But anyway, this was like the first movie I remember seeing him in that was not a Disney thing or kid related. So with his character, one of the things I was reading too about this movie is I think one of the things that people had a problem with, and like I didn't have this problem because I'm not a huge DC fan in general. I'm more of a Marvel guy. And two, I didn't know anything about Constantine back when this came out, like 15 years ago. So I would have been, like 14 years old when this came out. I didn't really know Constantine as a character. I guess Chaz is one of the original characters. The character Hennessy, who was also introduced early in the movie, who has some really interesting stuff that's definitely going to come back when we talk about the video game.
Yeah.
Because Hennessy is in the game, but it's very different.
It's all very. You don't even see Chaz in the game.
Different. Chaz is not in the game.
No,
Chaz
neither is Satan.
No. Oh, Peter Stormare is so good in this film.
He's so good. Oh my gosh.
He's so good. But yeah, so Chaz was one of the original characters. Hennessy is kind of a compilation of a few characters. And I think other than that and Balthazar, Gabriel, like obviously them, like Satan, I don't think there's a lot of characters that actually come from the comics. I know Angela and her sister Isabel are not in the comics. Stuff like that. There is an interesting scene early on of a character who I guess was from the comics. I shouldn't say a scene earlier on. A scene that was deleted was with Michelle Monaghan, which I didn't realize till we were watching this again that Michelle Monaghan was even in this film. She's in it in a deleted scene, and then she's in it at the end for like a second. And I remember looking at that going, is that Michelle Monaghan? Why would they use her for like literally an extra in this movie? And it's because her talking scene in the movie is cut out. It's this really weird scene where Keanu is basically wakes up post-coital next to a half-breed demon who's played by Michelle Monaghan, and then he kills her in the end of the movie, which I found kind of interesting. I'm glad they cut that scene out. It was a little weird.
It's unnecessary.
It was unnecessary. I didn't like it. Maybe it's true to the comics. I don't know, and I don't care. I like this, how it's not like... maybe this is going to rub people the wrong way, because I know when I watch certain Marvel stuff, I'm like, oh, you did that so wrong. But because I don't have that original connection, I like the way this went, and I feel like it's better in the film than it would have been had they stayed so true to the comics. I don't feel like I would have liked the movie the same.
Probably not.
So another character that I wanted to bring up that is interesting, talking about stuff that's in the game and in the movie. Like I said, we're going to be talking more about the game first, but I really want to get through what it is that we love about this movie, what's so good about it. I thought that Gabriel was a very good character. Tilda Swinton, who I'm not normally a big fan of.
I love Tilda.
Really?
I really do, yeah.
What other movies do you like her from?
She played
the witch in the Narnia movies around the same time.
I thought that she did good in that. I thought she did. There was she played some.
I know she was in Burn After Reading, which I don't know if you've ever seen that. That's a great film.
I'm trying to remember which one that I just like fell in love with her.
This for me, I felt like was her. I feel like she was almost completely perfect for this role.
She really was.
She's kind of androgynous looking, like, which works for the Gabriel kind of not a male or female character. Right. She's got a really interesting voice too, and
she does. It's
really interesting eyes.
I love her look. I love everything about her, honestly. I'm kind of biased.
That's okay. No, I think she's great in this film. I'm just saying, like, I can't think of a ton of other stuff I really loved her from, but I thought she was so good in this film. And that scene in the church between her and Constantine that really sets up like this doom and gloom look of why he's so cynical, right, and why he is the way that he basically knows, so he can't have faith anymore. He's a suicide, which kind of, in as far as Catholic dogma goes, means he would be going to hell.
It's like the ultimate sin compared to everything else. Like,
I never grew up Catholic. I grew up Protestant, so that was never a belief that I heard growing up.
Right.
But that is important in this movie. And I like that whole scene. I feel like it really sets up his character and explains his I don't know, his outlook on life, you know?
Yeah.
Like him trying to buy his way back to heaven. It's kind of like a trope of movies where it's like the cop being sent to a prison where he put the inmates there. And they even say that, but it's like based on that trope, but in a spiritual aspect of it.
Yeah, I feel it's like a lot more doomy because like he has to get through this life, but once he's done here, he's like, well, where else do I have to go? So why does it matter?
It's like the cop dilemma, but on a bigger scale.
Yeah, it
like
really
on an
is.
eternal scale.
It really is because it's like an eternity in hell once he dies. So he's really trying to. It's almost selfish reasons that he's doing the exorcisms, which he's trying to buy his way back, but.
Yeah, and that's what really sets up the sacrifice part at the end of the movie and makes it so important. I wanted to talk about kind of the religious symbolism in this movie and some of the interesting things that stuck with you. What sticks with you most? I know we had talked about this. I feel like it might be the same for you as it is for me. But what about the I don't know, the otherworldly religious kind of symbolism that really sticks out to you the most in this movie?
I think it's just more where my beliefs are going, like in general that heaven and hell are all around us and we're constantly living in it, and it's just like on parallel with our world. I think that's probably one of the coolest parts of this movie.
I feel like that growing up as someone who has faith and who is religious, that part to me stuck out so much. I went to college at one point to study theology, and I feel like that was one of the. It's gonna sound silly, but this movie actually made me feel like that was a debate and a question that I wanted to talk to people about and look into as far as like, does it have a biblical basis? Basically, in the movie, the way they represent heaven and hell is that they're not like, heaven's not just way up in the clouds and hell's not like literally beneath the earth or some other plane, but they're like there's like this veil between the worlds. So like when he goes.
Like almost interdimensional. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, but it's like they overlap. Yeah. And I feel like that was a really interesting concept to think about. As far as them talking about the influences, because I talk about this wager between God and the devil of, you know, like them not really interfering, but there's angels that influence people and demons that influence people. And the fact that they're kind of overlapping, like you can feel and sense the forces of either side because they're right there, but they're not visible, which is interesting in a biblical context. I think it was Elijah, maybe I'd have to look this up, that talks about like opening his eyes to actually see things that he couldn't see before. It's part of the Old Testament, basically seeing things that are on our plane that are not visible to the normal human eye, which is kind of where I think it takes that from that part of the Bible.
And I love that the characters, this specific main characters that we're seeing, like Hennessy and Constantine and Angela and her sister, Isabel, they all have this ability to kind of see in between those gaps and see the worlds. And that's what makes them so vulnerable to just all of this happening.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what drives Constantine to his suicide when he's young.
Because he just couldn't deal with it.
He doesn't believe his parents. I think at one point it shows his parents tried to exorcise him.
It was shock therapy.
Or shock therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they basically saw him as schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And once he crosses over, he realizes that he's not just seeing things, that this is real.
It's real, yeah.
I do love it. I do love those scenes like at Hennessy's death, which I would like to talk about Hennessy's death in a minute. You see the guy standing over his body, and then you can see that he's actually an angel. And to Constantine, he has wings.
And with Angela, too, honestly, like when her meeting Constantine, like she denied everything she saw as like, to the point where she could no longer see. And then she meets Constantine, and this happens to her sister, and he shows her this world, and she's like, holy shit, this is real.
Yeah, no, it's true. I feel like a lot of people who believe in that type of stuff, who I've talked to, who have seen things, that is a real struggle for people who feel that connection with the other side, or feel that or can see, or at least claim to see things from the other side. I do tend to believe in that type of stuff, to be completely honest, just to be out front with it. But I don't know. That's like, from talking to a lot of religious people, I feel like that is a struggle. Like, am I crazy? There's so many questions of faith in this movie. John Constantine's whole character is a question of faith, which is so interesting. And maybe that's why it resonates with me so much. I feel like we had talked about this before. Maybe this movie won't resonate with people who don't have that understanding of life, but it does resonate with me And I feel like a lot of people, I feel like that, because I can't find a lot of like huge flaws with this movie that would make it be one of like Roger Ebert's worst movies, or why. What's some of the other reviews it got as far as like critical response? Average on Rotten Tomatoes is like 46%. Average rating is 5.4 out of 10. I don't feel like it deserves that. I feel like it's got a lot of really well done shots. I feel like it's got I feel like the acting is really good. I mean, especially Peter Stormare is always good.
Yeah.
And his interpretation of the devil, which want to talk about that. His costume at the end of the movie, I know we're jumping all over the place, but I'm just going to bring up stuff as it comes to me. His costume at the end of the movie was something he came up with, like this off linen white suit and the tar dripping from him.
It's so beautiful.
It's so good. But if you read what they originally wanted to do, which is like leather pants,
like some BDSM.
Yeah, it was. It was like leather pants and like a studded dog collar.
Like
I'm like, no.
Like the devil was once an angel. Why would he turn into like some BDSM sex slave?
I don't know.
Weird.
It was gonna look like Channing Tatum at the end of that movie, The End of the World. Is that what it was called?
Oh,
what's
yeah.
that one with Seth Rogen
No,
in them?
yeah, I remember that. I can't remember what it's called.
It's some weird BDSM stuff. But he was so good. He was so good as the devil. His looks were so interesting. Like I said, Tilda Swinton does great. Rachel Weisz is great in this film. I can never pronounce this guy's name, so I'm not going to try right now. The guy who plays Papa Midnight. He's really good in this. He's also from Blood Diamond and stuff. I feel like this movie's got the guy who plays Balthazar even.
He did good.
It's got a lot of interesting cinematography. It's got
I
think a lot of good acting.
Who did Hennessy?
The guy who plays Hennessy's good.
Yeah, he did really good with Hennessy. I think he did great.
I don't know that guy's name either. All I can think of him from is he's the guy who shoots Carl in The Walking Dead. Poor Carl.
Carl, no.
I thought it was a deer. No, but talking about Hennessy, his scene.
Oh, I loved his scene
where he dies.
That's so good.
Is maybe one of my favorite scenes in the whole film.
So good. So I was reading more about that, and he could have been seen as borderline schizophrenic too, because the reason why he drank so much was to literally drown out the dead voices.
And, the information that's coming to him. That's why he wears the necklace in the beginning, I think, too. And when Constantine takes that away from him, he's like, look, I need you to open up your eyes again. I need you to stop hiding from this. And he does, but he's like, man, I got to hit the bottle to deal with this.
Yeah, and then he literally dies. Like, it's so ironic because he literally dies by drowning by alcohol.
Yeah.
So the thing that he used to help, it just ended up killing him.
Yeah, and it's I was thinking about this again. I don't know why. It's been a long time since I've seen this. And again, these are spoilers. Hopefully you've seen the movie by now. But like the fact that Gabriel is influencing a lot of these events, I didn't even think about till I realized that. I don't know why I never realized that's why Chaz dies at the end.
Right.
I was like, oh, it's Gabriel that killed him. Okay. It made more sense.
Tilda Swinton's Tilda is a big woman. She's tall.
She's super tall.
She's really, and I didn't realize how tall Keanu is either until this movie.
He's at least 6'1". I mean, he's not like crazy tall, but he's tall.
To me.
You're like 4'12".
Okay,
so.
wow.
I'm not a very tall person either. I'm only 5'10". So everybody that's 6 foot looks tall to me too. But I thought Hennessy's scene was great. He like the breaking open the bottles and everything, like him just trying to get this alcohol not coming out, and he sets him down and it just starts pouring out. Like that I thought was shot really well. I felt like it was pretty haunting. I think the implication was Balthazar behind that.
Yeah, Balthazar, because he walks in and he's
but the whole like when you realize that Balthazar is working with Gabriel,
right?
Some of the scenes make a little bit more sense, especially with was it Isabel's suicide? Chaz's eventual demise. I don't know. I like Hennessy. We're gonna. I want to talk about his game.
It was so bad compared to the.
Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to the game. Let's get through a little bit more of the movie because the game's not bad. Just to put that out.
The game's not bad. It's not terrible.
No, it's not bad, but I will say that was one of the more disappointing parts of the game.
I think it wasn't even necessarily how he died. It was how
much it doesn't matter.
And Constantine's like, it's fun.
Just looks past it. Let's see. So
not even a cutscene, not even a half-second cutscene.
I know you had told me that one of your favorite scenes in this movie is with Angela and Constantine in his apartment.
Oh gosh, yes, that was a beautiful because she does go into the thing where she's talking about when she's finally going through all this after she's been to hell and all this. It was right after he drowns her.
Yeah.
And she's like, it almost looks like a confessional booth and which
the drowning scene, by the way, is also really awesome.
It's
I like
really-
their use of slow motion.
It's really intense, and the fact that he was actually holding her down and like
Yeah.
she would just give him a light tap to let him know when she needed air.
Yeah.
But she actually needed to struggle, and everybody was like actually concerned for her well-being at certain points.
That would be a hard scene to film.
Yeah.
I feel like it'd be really hard to just like stone face, like hold someone underneath the water and be
Right.
like, I hope that they're acting right now and they're not dying. But yeah, her scene after she wakes up and starts to see that she's always been able to see these
Right,
things.
and she's behind like this green glass pane, and she's talking to Constantine, and the way it's shot, it looks like she's confessing to a pastor, like all her sin personally, where she is lying about who she is, and she like it's the reason she feels like she's the reason her sister committed and felt crazy because she was sitting there like, no, I don't see this.
Yeah.
So it was just like her lifting this weight off her shoulders, and Constantine is just like taking it in.
Yeah, I like the use of like yellow and green kind of lenses and glass. Like there's a lot of like almost stained glass type stuff in this movie. I thought that scene, watching it again now, was more powerful and stood out to me more than it had when I was younger. I definitely like that. It does look like you said, she's in a confessional booth, but instead of like the cross hatching, it's like the green glass and the way the camera pans out of that.
And if you think about it, Constantine is constantly in the shadows anytime he talks to her until the end of the movie.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, in the end of the movie when
He's, like,
it's got
glowing.
the light coming from, I guess it's like from the elevator.
Yeah, it's from the lights above the that pool
in the hospital.
Yeah.
I do like that. I like a lot of the cinematography in this movie. I felt like his apartment was always super interesting to me too. Like there's stuff I noticed about it this time. Like he's got all those water jugs, and I don't know why I'd never noticed that all the water jugs have like a cross on them. And I was trying to figure out, is he like bulk ordering like thousands of gallons of holy water?
Calls Costco like, hey, I need.
Can I call Costco in the Vatican? Does the Vatican have a Costco
Just
that he
underneath,
can order holy water from?
underneath the basement? That's what they keep down there.
I don't know, but he has a lot of freaking holy water. I almost started counting how many gallon. Like he's got like the 5-gallon things of it, like you would throw into a Culligan dispenser.
He just drinks holy water on the reg. It's fine.
Which is one of the things the game does right.
Yeah.
You get your health from the Culligan water dispensers. Apparently,
Oh, you know
everywhere
what?
you go, you didn't realize that?
I didn't realize that.
Everywhere you go, they've got a big, water cooler.
I just thought it was
water.
water.
I guess they're just all holy water.
Yeah, he just has them planted around the city. He just
plants them at everywhere you might go. I don't know. I kind of like that. He's got a lot of interesting weapons and gadgets and things like that too. Which
I do like that they mirrored that.
Yeah, the game does do that well. What was there anything else about the movie that you wanted to talk about before we get into the game itself?
Oh, the end scene, right? Oh, just because of how different the end of the movie was compared to the
let's
game.
talk about the end of the movie, because the end of the movie is great.
Yeah, like when it comes to him slitting his wrist and performing the ultimate, like he is committing suicide again, yes, which typically in the Catholic religion is awful. And Satan comes down and is like, oh, you did it again. Like, I'm surprised this is how you would go after the first time. But then like when Satan's trying to drag him to hell, which I found out Satan grabs him by his left arm, which is typically supposed to be like your evil side.
Yeah, you left-handers are all super evil.
But
I saw that too. I don't know. I guess that was probably a conscious choice because he does slit his left wrist first.
He does slit his left wrist
and then
first.
he grabs him by his left hand.
But then God finally intervenes and like stops Satan from taking him and starts to kind of bring him up to heaven. And like when he goes to flip him off, and then the devil, that's so hilarious. He's
that
like,
is
fuck
kind
you,
of a
I
funny
got
scene.
you.
He's like, yeah, I'm going to heaven, but the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to flip off Satan.
Yeah, and then Satan grabs him and is like, oh, hell no, I'm going to take the cancer from you and bring you back. Like, you're going to live so that you can fuck up again and I can have you. So it's like, even when Keanu is like, Constantine tries to redeem himself, and not even in a selfish way. It's finally like, it's like a fuck you at the end.
Yeah, it's like, well, don't screw up again, Constantine.
And
I guess go back to Earth and hopefully you do the next 20 years, right?
Right, and he just like he decides to stop smoking, and he's changing his life around. I think that's why he doesn't kiss her too, because he
does say like, I want to fix myself a little bit first, which I thought actually I liked that part of the movie.
Yeah.
I felt like that was actually kind of a good message. Like, hey, maybe jumping into a relationship when I'm at my worst is not a good idea, and that I will fix myself before, putting my problems onto you. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I do like all of the near kisses in the movie, though.
They were
There's a lot
so
of
good.
tension. There's a lot of tension.
I love that part when she goes to pucker and like kiss him, and he's just like walks.
He's like, whatever. I got my Nicorette gum. I'm gonna put this necklace on you. It's all good.
It's so good.
Nah, it's pretty great. So let's talk about the game. I'm sure we'll bring up some of the stuff from the movie as well. Again, your history with the movie is something that you grew up on that you really liked, something that still resonates with you. You still like the movie.
Still to this day, yeah, I love watching it.
It's still a movie I'll pull out maybe once a year to watch. I still love it. I don't know. I think I'll always love this movie, and I don't really care that Rotten Tomatoes doesn't like it or that Roger Ebert doesn't like it. I don't care.
I don't ever really listen to Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes is so wrong.
It's
so
always like they give good ratings to movies that are absolute trash.
Yeah, the whole world of movie critics to me is just a political bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, I know. When people are like, "Oh yeah, Rotten Tomatoes says this," I'm just like, I don't care. I'm just gonna watch it. I don't
like. Look, I'm not going to say that Tango and Cash is the best movie ever made, but when I read on, I don't know, it was Rotten Tomatoes or something at one point that it was the worst, it was rated as the worst movie ever. I had never seen Tango and Cash at this point. I was a teenager. I'm like, all right, I got to see this movie now. I love that movie. I don't care. It's got the same soundtrack that plays with the whole thing, but it's so freaking great for an 80s cheesy action movie.
I think one movie that made me officially say, fuck Rotten Tomatoes, I'm never listening to them again, was The Vitch.
I've never seen that.
Like
did they like it or they hate it?
I think if I remember, they gave it such a good review because of like all these reasons. And I watched it and I was like, wow, this movie was actually terrible. There was nothing suspenseful, nothing good about this entire movie.
Yeah, I've not heard a lot of good stuff about it.
It's awful. It had potential, but it was just terrible.
I feel like that's just been the case with me for a lot of great movies. Movies that I personally love just are not liked by the critics. I feel like that's true with me in a lot of ways. I feel like it's the same. Video game critics are generally better than movie critics, in my opinion.
I think so,
but there's
too.
still video games that I love that I know are not highly rated. I could probably give some examples. This game was rated, to get into the game, this came out at the same time, 2005. It was rated about a 6.5.
Which
generally.
I think that's fair.
I don't think it's that far off, to be honest.
Yeah.
I liked it more than I would like a lot of games rated that low, but it wasn't super far off. I feel like I was actually happy with this game. Again, I didn't really play this game at the time it came out, but I was pleasantly surprised with the game because it was something that I could see myself at that time in my teen years renting at Blockbuster or Family Video over a weekend and beating it and being happy about it.
Right.
It's not a game I'd play a lot, but I did enjoy it.
I think I'd play it again.
I probably would. It was more fun than I thought it would be. So this game, let's talk about the gameplay of it. It's kind of like a third-person shooter style game. Kind of got some RPG elements. The weapons are one of the best things in my opinion.
I loved the weapons. The variety was really cool.
It did shed some light on the movie weapons as well for me. Obviously, you start out. Well, not obviously. I don't think this is a weapon even in the movie, but he starts off with like these 2 revolvers, like the Witch's Curse.
Oh yeah, he has the Witch's Curse, and I think he gets another one after he sees.
And then after that, he gets the Crucifier.
Yes,
which is a kind of interesting weapon. It's like a submachine gun that shoots nails, like cross nails out of it, and then it's got some RPG elements as far as like leveling up the guns a little bit. The Crucifier itself gets like fire damage added to it.
Yeah.
It gets ricochet damage added to it. And it gets explosive damage added to it. So that gun kind of becomes better. I think that's the only one.
There might have been more, but we might have missed it just because we were...
I feel like we caught a lot of things, but it's possible on a first playthrough that we didn't get everything.
Yeah.
I know for the Crucifier, there's definitely upgrades. The first scene of the game is probably the most accurate to the movie. They like completely recreate the exorcism scene from the beginning of the movie. And they do a really good job at it. The only difference is that when the mirror comes out and falls on the cab, Chaz is not there.
Yeah,
Chaz is not in the
game.
Not at all. There's quite a few differences from the game to the movie. So one of the things that I wanted to look at with this podcast is, do these games add to the movie experience? If you enjoyed the movie, are you going to enjoy the game? Does it have a similar storyline? Does it add to it? Does it take away from it? Does it capture the same essence of the movie? And I feel like in some ways this does, and in some ways it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily adds. It did make me realize a couple things about the movie, like when it came to the that one weapon. I can't remember.
Okay, so you're talking about the Moses Shroud.
Yeah, the Moses Shroud.
So
yeah.
I had never realized this watching the movie. There's this scene.
I had no idea what it was either.
You had to look it up or watch the DVD commentary to get this. But there's a scene in the movie when Angela first talks to him and he goes outside. He sees these flying soldier demons.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh shit, she's in trouble. I'm going to go outside and protect her. And all the lights go out everywhere except the little religious
Mary,
Mother Mary
shroud,
whatever. Yeah. The little store that has Mary in front, right? So they kind of move into that light, and he pulls out this thing from his pocket, which I guess you see earlier in the movie. It's one of the things Beeman gives him.
Yeah.
I don't think he says he doesn't say what it is.
He doesn't say what it is. He's just like, here's some more shit.
But he pulls out this old-looking cloth, and he lights it on fire, and it blasts the demons away.
Light.
And it's just kind of like one of those unexplained parts of the movie. It's like, okay, Constantine just has lots of cool tricks.
Right.
I don't really know what this is. I guess in the DVD commentary, they say that it is a piece of the Shroud of Moses.
Yeah.
Which really I didn't realize till the game you actually get this as a weapon. You only get
3 of them?
3 of them, I think. They're really hard to find.
Which makes sense because, like, how big is the shroud really? Like,
yeah, I mean, how much of Moses' shroud are you cutting up to use for demon slaying purposes? It's pretty much the best weapon in the game. You just use it, and all of a sudden, everything on screen dies.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really powerful weapon, which is why you don't get a lot of them. But I thought that was kind of, as far as the game adding to the lore of the movie, that explains what that weapon from the movie is.
Yeah.
And I liked that. One of the things about the game to the movie, as far as characters go, you do fight basically, is that supposed to be Legion? I always thought of it as Legion in the movie when that thing comes, the swarm of flies and stuff like that. Because Legion is that group of 4,000 demons that go into the pigs.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
And I just assumed that was Legion taking over like tons of bugs and crabs and rats and things to make this.
I think it was Legion.
I think so. And you fight that in the game. You do get the Screech Beetles. They're only really good for the fights against Legion, I guess.
Yeah.
They give them a different name in the script and in the movie. I don't remember what it is. Like, I could look it up. But basically, you get the Screech Beetles as well. They're only useful against him. You fight him, I think, 3 times. So the boss battles in this game, what are your opinions on the boss battles? Because boss battles in games, to me, are what make and break great games.
I think Legion and Gabriel, I think, were the only 2 boss battles that I was like, okay, yeah, I like those. The rest of them to me felt very lackluster compared to like the actual fighting of the demons. I
felt like the best action parts of this game were fighting the demon hordes.
Yeah,
there was times that it was better than others. The boss battles were lackluster.
Yeah.
I liked the battle against, like I said, like Legion or whatever they call him. Gabriel was a pretty fun battle, like you'd said.
I didn't think Balthazar's battle was that great.
Balthazar's battle, I'm trying to even remember what you do to kill Balthazar. I thought it was mostly, I remember his. You basically just use a spell. So one of the other things in this game is you get spells. I know you didn't like the spells.
Mostly just because I don't think I knew how to use them, so that's probably why I didn't like them.
Okay, I liked the use of spells. I didn't use them very much in the beginning of the game, and then towards the end, I'm like, I better fucking use spells, and it really changes how you play the game. I feel like I would have got through it faster if I had used spells and some of the immense amounts of like soldier demons that come at you. Realizing that you could use this spell they call Stormcrow, which is just like lightning shoots everywhere. I don't think I ever once used the gargoyle spell, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess it turns demons into stone, but I tried to use it on a boss.
And it was like...
It didn't do anything on the boss, which I figured it wouldn't, but he was surrounded by little demons, and I was so preoccupied with fighting him that I don't even know if it worked. I'm sure it did. I didn't really use that spell a lot. I feel like on a second playthrough, I would try to use the spells more.
Yeah, the game mechanics are so weird, so it kind of like you kind of have to rely on the spells just because shooting is so hard.
That is the one thing. So I will say this in defense of it. This game came out in 2005. If you play older shooter games, third-person shooters, there is a lot of cases where they are really hard to aim. Like they've really tuned in the mechanics of aiming in modern games. And there's no there's no aim down sights in older games and things like that. So this game is clunkiest at trying to move.
Yeah.
Clunkiest when you're trying to shoot things only thing that's clunkier and harder to do is to move objects.
Oh my gosh, that was impossible
Like
sometimes.
when you grab a box, there's a lot of times you'll there's a lot of puzzles in this game. And the puzzles are not all bad.
No,
Some of
they're
them are
not.
pretty good.
They're
Some of them are
fairly
kind of
easy.
dumb.
They're fairly easy to solve. Like, I mean, there's been some games like Legend of Zelda. There was a couple of those puzzles that took me forever to
For
solve.
sure, especially like Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, and compared to like this game where, it really only took, the hardest ones took a couple minutes just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I don't feel like the puzzles were super hard. I will say there was at least one puzzle in the game that we
real
completed, but
dumb
we
one?
have no idea how.
That one was
I could not figure it out. We were streaming this on Twitch. I was even asking people like, do you guys see something I don't? We just kept moving things until it worked.
I even like looked it up and
what did you find when you looked
nothing.
it up?
It just like there
Just
was a
try stuff until it works.
There was a video, and the video just showed a dude, like it was like wavy, and this dude was walking around in a circle, and it was done, I guess. I don't know.
Basically, the weirdest part to me is we thought we had the puzzle figured out, and then it was like, nope, nothing happened. So I took a piece away from where I had set it and put it right back to where it was, and then the puzzle was completed.
It was like, ta-da, you did it!
It's like, oh, you had it right, but we just wanted to make you do the extra work. It's like when your mom tells you to clean your room, and you think you have it good enough. She's like, not good enough. And then she goes away and you just kind of sit there on your phone, don't actually clean. She comes back. She's like, oh, this is good. She just wanted to make you do more work. That's what it felt like. I didn't think the puzzles were all right at times. But I will say the clunkiest part was you have to like grab and move objects around like you would in God of War or Zelda, things like that. And I could never get him to move them the right direction.
I know. You were like, go left,
pain.
and he would like go up or something.
He was such a pain in the ass. It just never... That part was frustrating. The shooting was a little clunky. Like I said, when you turn,
it was the
your
turning.
aim, it would go really slow, and then it would go, and then it would go slow, and it was like it didn't ever feel super good. So you kind of had to get used to strafing and shooting a lot more than actually turning your aim.
That's what I had the hardest time with, is like not trying to actually aim and more of just like aiming in a general direction and hoping for the best.
Yeah. There's definitely two guns that really help with that, and that's the crucifier, because you're just like shooting a bunch of ricocheting nails at everything, hoping you hit stuff, and then the shotgun's just got a huge blast
probably why that
radius.
Crossbow was so
The crossbow
awful.
is the worst
because it relies
aim.
on the aim. Yeah,
you can't aim,
and
the
it's so
crossbow
slow.
is so slow. We had always had a full ammo on the crossbow because we just didn't use it.
It was awful.
Yeah, we didn't use it much. The holy shotgun is the best weapon, but you do run out of ammo for that. The crucifier, you can re-pick up your ammo. So there's this game mechanic called True Sight, which you don't even really use
unless it's
ton.
dark.
It mostly helps you see in the dark. It almost looks like Riddick vision, and then it helps you to figure out a few puzzles.
Yeah.
The only other use for it is to find the nails that you had already shot,
or those random
re-pick up
spots on the
nails.
walls. Like if you needed to like go up against a wall, and like it kind of gave you
there's
sometimes.
clues to puzzles and finding things. It wasn't an all right mechanic. It wasn't super explored. It wasn't. I still feel like the game shines best as just a fun run and gun shooter.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I feel like I don't know.
Hennessy's
I feel like
death.
a 7 or an 8 out of 10 for its time period, especially because you have to rate it on a curve a little bit, because it is I feel like you kind of rate movie-based games on a curve a little bit, just because a lot of what you're buying these for is nostalgia.
Yeah.
A lot of what you're buying for is I loved Constantine, so I want to relive and be a part of that. I feel like you give them a little bit, at least in my opinion. I will like certain games if they're based on something I like, even if they're not the best. So I would give this a little bit higher rating just on that curve.
I think if they redid the game or like remastered it or just made a new one, I would absolutely buy that game.
If they made a Constantine game now, the way they've been making like Spider-Man and the way they're making all these superhero games now.
Yeah.
Because if you look at older superhero games like Iron Man, it's just trash. I'm sure we'll cover it on the podcast at some point. But I feel like Constantine has got such an interesting concept for a video game that they could really make a good one.
Yeah, I think so too. But it being linear, not an open world. This is not one of those games.
This is something we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that every video game now has to be open world.
Yeah, it's unnecessary for a lot of games. Hellblade did so great and it wasn't open world.
Hellblade is one of the best games in the last year that I played.
Good. I can't wait till part 2 comes out. But
I am so excited. I remember seeing trailers for Hellblade and being like, that looks interesting. Then I played it and I was like, this game is just amazing.
Right.
It's super underrated. I would like to see a new Constantine game. I really would. So one of the other things I want to talk about is like the voice acting and some of the characters.
no.
What did you think
Oh,
of
no.
what did you think of Discount Store Keanu Reeves?
It wasn't like bad. It was
There was a
it was
lot
bad.
of cheesy lines.
It was
There was a lot of cheesy. Can you remember any of them? There was a couple good ones.
I can't remember any of the lines, but it was
there-
definitely that era of like random like one-liners at the end of something that was like real cheesy and
There was some cheesy one-liners for sure.
but there was a lot like no emotion to his
No,
voice acting.
knockoff Keanu Reeves wasn't great. They did bring back Tilda Swinton for
Yeah.
her role, and they brought back the guy who played Beeman. I can't think of his name. Did they bring back anybody else?
No, I think they were
it was
the
just
only
them.
two.
They were good. I feel like there was one more. Hennessy was in this. We got to
Poor
talk about
Hennessy.
Hennessy. We got to talk about Hennessy.
Poor Hennessy.
So Hennessy is in the game, and his character is just as important in the game as the movie. And then there's this one character that you fight a lot of, and I hate these things. They're like called berserkers or something, right?
Behemoths?
No, Behemoth is the big one with the
you're right,
nodes on his shoulders. So you fight, like I said, the bosses you end up fighting multiple times.
Yeah.
Which is another thing. Like you fight the Behemoth and then you fight the Behemoth again and you fight. There's like 3 bosses and you just fight them a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Other than like a couple of
like
main
the-
bosses like Balthazar, Gabriel, Mammon. Mammon was not that great of a
Mammon
boss
was,
battle. The final boss
took
battle
like
was
2 seconds.
a little disappointing, but there's this character called a berserker, I think, and you can't hurt them except they've got this big green sore on their back. So you have to like let them charge you, and he moves slowly, so it's really hard to dodge. There's no dodge button. You just got to get beat up by these guys enough so you can get behind them, and then your turning to
Your turning
aim is
is
so
just
slow.
as bad as
So you're
theirs.
you're trying to turn fast enough to shoot this guy in this big green sore on his back before he turns around, and so they're kind of the bitchiest character.
They really are.
They're the biggest pain in the ass in the game. But you fight a lot of them, right? And there's this scene, I think, at the precinct, or is this... It might have been at the precinct, or
Yeah,
earlier.
I think it was...
Maybe it was before the precinct when you were still... So the story does kind of follow... We'll talk about the story in a
little
minute. But to talk about his death, and then we'll talk about why the story is different. The Berserker in this like kind of cutscene, like... It's not even the first one you fight, I don't think.
I think it was in the hospital.
It's a hospital.
Yeah.
The Berserker comes out and just runs over Hennessy and crushes his head, and that's it.
That's it. And
There's no, it's like, not even like a full cutscene. It's like,
bam, crush.
oh, hey, John, what's up? Berserker crushes Hennessy. That's it.
And, like,
That
they've
is
been
it. And
friends for a long time.
He never says anything.
He just walks
It
by
doesn't
like, this is
change
fine.
anything. Like, at first I was like, is he dead? I mean, he looks dead.
Oh, he's dead,
But they
dead.
never
That thing
say
steps on his
anything.
head.
Oh, yeah, it crushes his head.
Like,
But it was just so like anticlimactic for
I
a
know.
main
It was just
character.
like, compared to like how he died in the movie where it was like this big dramatic scene. There's like
one of the best
slow
scenes in the
motion.
movie. One of the best scenes in
And
the movie.
like this music. And it was very, and then Constantine goes up to him and has this kind of heartfelt moment. Like, why didn't you call me?
Yeah.
And then just to be like, meh, just another dead
It's like
body.
he just crushed by a random like thing that you fight a billion of.
Yeah, it was intense.
So let's talk about the storyline. Like, is this true to the movie?
I mean, did it even talk about her sister at all?
No.
Yeah,
No,
so her sister wasn't in this.
Angela's in it, but
Isabel's not.
Isabel's not. So the story basically starts off. The way they found the Spear of Destiny is totally different too.
Right.
So it basically starts off with them recreating the exorcism scene from the beginning. And then for no reason at all, you go to hell to find the holy shotgun. Because I guess Beeman's like, hey, you could use this shotgun to be cool.
Instead of giving
and
it
you
to
basically start the game on a quest to find the pieces of the shotgun.
Yeah.
And then in this quest to find the pieces of the holy shotgun, there's like a half-breed angel that dies. So you go investigate the crime scene. And that leads you to Angela, who arrests you for interfering. And then she basically is like, oh, by the way, I have this weird satanic tattoo on my wrist that showed up in my sleep.
I had no idea how
I don't
it
know
got
what
there.
it is. And he's all like, oh, that's
Mark of Mammon.
Yeah, Mark of Mammon. And she had like the Corinthians 17.
17:1.
17:1, which is a plot point in the movie, which is there's no 17th act in Corinthians except in the Bible in hell, right?
Right.
So he's all like, you're just reading the wrong Bible. Maybe if you went to hell. It's just like just some corny line. And then she just disappears. Like,
Yeah,
that's
she's
it.
gone.
She just disappears. And then you are going after Balthazar, I guess, and you're like, I'm going to talk to Papa Midnight, just trying to get all the main characters kind of in there somewhere.
It was a really jumbled story.
The
now that
story
I think
did
about
not, it. Yeah. There was times where I was like, I don't know why we're here.
Yeah, it was just like,
this.
we're here now, and this is what we need to do just because this is how it happened in the movie.
Yeah, but it didn't even really follow the movie that much. And then at one point, it's all like, oh, the Spear of Destiny's gone, and they're going to take Angela, and they're going to bring Maman back.
And
It was
you're like,
all
why?
quick. And then like the whole reveal part at the end, like at the end when Chaz of the movie, Chaz dies, and then he does that, like brings Gabriel to the light.
Right.
He's like, uses that spell basically to be like, okay, who killed him? There's somebody in this room that I can't see, and it's Gabriel. Right. And there's this reveal that her whole plot point, or her whole idea is
the big twist.
Yeah, the big twist of the movie basically is mankind has become soft, and when they're soft, they don't care about God, and God gives them forgiveness too easily. So I'm going to plunge the world into darkness, so that way people will earn and become noble,
worthy of God's love,
and become worthy of God's love. So that whole big reveal at the end of the movie in this game, it's basically like you see Gabriel hauling Angela, and she's all like, I'm gonna make humanity better again, and that was just like it.
That's it.
And then it was so jumbled.
Like if you didn't watch the movie before you played the game and you just jumped into this game, you'd be like, what the fuck is happening?
Having an appreciation for the movie makes the game better.
Yeah, but if you just play the game without watching, you're like, what? You're going to be real lost.
Yeah. There's not much story here. It's really anticlimactic. The end too. At the end of the movie, like he sacrifices himself and all this big stuff happens.
And then
right? And there's this whole scene where Satan comes in and like deports his son back to hell, which is also really cool. I didn't mention.
Oh yeah,
because they're next to the cross pool, and it does this like mirror image thing, which is another thing that the movie does so well. Is these like the use of water and mirrors to show
the other side. Yeah.
And that scene where he deports him, you can see like he's standing next to the cross pool, and in the reflection, it's an upside down cross into hell.
And when he deports him, Gabriel's wings are literally fried off, and she becomes human.
Yeah, she becomes human. In the game, instead of any of that happening, Satan never shows up. You're just like, you kill Gabriel.
Yeah.
Then you go to hell and kill Maman. And then, this is my favorite part. John Constantine in the movie has the cancer removed from his lungs, gets a second lease on life,
right?
And it ends with him chewing Nicorette gum. Right?
Yeah,
he's like I'm done smoking.
Person.
By the way, another little interesting trivia: he smokes 13 cigarettes throughout the course of the movie.
Oh,
which is like an unlucky number, is intentional.
Interesting.
So in the game, you just kill Maman, and then he's all like, well, that was cool. Lights up a cigarette. It ends.
That's it. That's it. Like dumb. No self-revelation. No.
Oh yeah. And then at the very end, one of the things Gabriel says to him in the game is, by the way, John, you've got cancer in your lungs. And he's like, that's cool, bitch. And like lights up a cigarette. He just doesn't care.
He's like, whatever.
He's like, yeah, that's cool.
I got demons to exercise.
Gotta exercise the demons. And he just goes on smoking, just carrying on. It's like no big deal. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna die. Whatever. I don't care.
Oh, but talk about that one thing with Chaz that deleted or at the end.
Yeah, so I showed you that.
That was so
good. A lot
good.
of people don't know there's a deleted scene at the end of the movie, or not deleted, sorry. There is a bonus after credit scene.
I literally had no idea.
2005, this was before after credit scenes became really popular.
Yeah.
And I noticed going back to that era, there were movies that had after credit scenes that I never realized. Like, did you know that all of the Pirates of the Caribbeans have after credit scenes?
I literally had no idea.
Yeah, they do. I didn't realize that till like one time I accidentally left that movie on after the credits and I saw something, and it was the same with Constantine. I'll give you a chance to go look at it now before I tell you what it is, if you want to, because a lot of people didn't know about it. I know we talked about it on Twitch last night and people hadn't known about it. Basically, I don't know if Chaz is an angel the whole time, but you see Constantine go to Chaz his grave, and he leaves his lighter on top of the grave because he's done smoking, and then Chaz is there on top of the grave all of a sudden in angel form.
Or maybe he earned his wings like Chaz.
I don't understand, because I don't think that's theologically accurate.
I don't know. It's
like
weird.
Angels are not the same as just humans who did good in life.
So maybe Chaz was like his guardian angel in a way.
Yeah, I can't tell. It's an interesting scene though. I want to look into that maybe, but.
Yeah, because you see that person at the convenience store that has the angel wings. So yeah, maybe.
But it also makes you wonder why John didn't see it. Like, was it hidden from him, or did he earn his wings?
John couldn't see Gabriel until he used his that tattoo on him. So I think angels are able to hide themselves better than demons are.
It's possible. It could be part of the lore. It might be explained in the comics. I don't really know, but I thought it was an interesting scene at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you have anything else to say about the game? I liked it. I'd play it again, but it was definitely cheesy.
Like I said, despite all of the weird stuff, I think having watched the movie first helps me enjoy the game. I don't know if I would have liked it playing it without watching.
Yeah, I feel like in addition to the movie, it's a fun, roughly 7-hour playthrough. Mm-hmm. It's not bad.
It's not
bad. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
I've played worse games.
I played worse movie-based games for sure, and worse games in general. No, it was pretty fun. It was pleasantly more fun than I thought it would. It had a little bit of an RPG style. You could collect spells. You could collect upgrades. There's a lot of little hidden things you can find that give you bonus features. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, if you're a fan of Constantine, if you want to play an old school, just like adventure action RPG game, it's pretty fun. One of the things I didn't mention is one of the cool mechanics of the game is that, like in the movie, he uses water as a medium to travel to hell. That is a mechanic of the game where you find like pools of water and you do a spell and it's got this almost Silent Hill-esque thing. I know you haven't really played the Silent Hill games, but in Silent Hill, you'll hear these sirens and you'll go to like the hell version of where you're at. So this kind of has that where you're going back and forth between. It definitely plays on that world behind a world. Like you're in hell, but you're in the same physical location.
Yeah.
Did you know that in the movie that hell, the way they represented hell was based on areas right after a nuclear bomb?
Oh,
like,
I
that's
didn't know
what
that.
they based it on. That's why the buildings are crumbling. It's supposed to look like a nuclear bomb had just gone off.
And that's cool. I mean,
like for eternity.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I don't know. Pretty fun game. There's a fair amount of different types of demons to fight. Some of them are kind of Doom-esque. You fight a lot of the same bosses. The stories, whatever. The voice acting, some of it's bad, some of it's good. It's got, interestingly enough, it does have quite a few jump scares, which was kind of fun.
Okay, I'm kind of.
You were a lot more jump scare than I was, but I did enjoy the little bits of jump scares and like certain objects would like randomly fly out and there would be like weird voices like in the darkness and stuff. It had a decent little bit of horror elements. It's definitely not a Silent Hill. It's definitely not made to be a full-on horror game. It's not going to be like that.
I'd call it a thriller game.
Yeah, more of a action adventure thriller type game. I don't know. I would say if you're a big fan of Constantine, it's not a bad choice to pick this up. You can pick it up for just a couple of bucks on eBay or I don't know if you can. It said it was for PC. I didn't look into if you could find it on PC. We played it through PS2, but it was decent. Mm-hmm. So let people know where they can find you. Thank you, by the way, for doing this episode with me.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me.
I hope you guys are enjoying this new podcast. We're still figuring out the format a little bit. This is the first episode we recorded. I've been doing this with Bianca, Tentacle Princess. Where can people find you, Bianca?
You can find me on Instagram at TentaclePrincess or Twitter. I can't remember my Twitter handle because it's not Tentacle
Princess. That's probably a good thing to have. It's not Tentacle. Is it? I call you Binks a lot, by the way.
Yeah, I think it's Binks.
I don't know if people heard me call you Binks or like I thought she was Bianca or Tentacle Princess. She's got many names.
I have many names.
If you join my Discord, you'll see that her name changes every day.
You know, now that I think about it, it hasn't changed in a while.
I'm going to do that after this.
Wow.
It's getting changed.
Okay.
So they can find you on twitch.tv/TentaclePrincess.
Yeah, Tentacle_Princess.
Tentacle_Princess. Instagram at Tentacle Princess.
Tentacles Princess.
Tentacles Princess.
Yeah, someone took Tentacle Princess.
Oh, that's a bummer.
It is a bummer.
Look for her there. You can find me on twitch.tv/DirtyMike_TV. Real Gaming Podcast is available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Real Gaming Pod. That's real with 2 E's. We'll be back next week with another episode. And until then, keep it real.